Hello there, I'm Zuki. Welcome to my podcast. Today I want to talk about something a bit controversial. I want to talk about vulnerability in men. Why don't men cry? That's a very common question that goes around everywhere. People asking, why can men cry? Why can't men feel things? Why can't they express themselves around other people? So do they cry? I believe they cry. And even if they cry, most of them won't show anyone that they're crying. And when people bring up this question, mostly in mental health conversations, they tend to they just tend to talk about the issue on the surface. Why can they cry? Why are they not vulnerable about around other people? But I have a controversial take on this issue, and I'm going to say why I believe that the question lacks depth, you know. So when people talk about why can't men cry, why can't they express themselves, why can't they talk about their fears or their things that they scare them, that things that they feel like they would want to share with someone, but it's difficult for them. And I believe to answer that question, in my opinion, we have to look at childhood, how men are raised, you know. So, as little kids, both boys and girls, they're practically the same. They are not that different. When it comes to crying, they all cry. Little boys, little girls, they all cry. But at some point, boys stop. You know, boys stop crying. It becomes this. At some point, it's a girls who are allowed to cry. Boys just don't cry, and that I believe that contributes to the question now. Why don't they cry? So it is not really an adult. The question can't have an adult. Can't have an answer from an adult perspective without looking at the childhood perspective, you know. So at some point, when boys cry, when girls cry, it's because they know someone is going to pay attention and attend to their needs. So when they cry, they get what they need, they get toys, they get food. And that at some point it stops happening for boys. So when boys cry, at some point they are told, no, you can't. But men don't cry, so you just can't keep crying. So that's one of the common things that happen with some boys as kids. They are told crying is not for boys, that's a girl's thing. They are called, you can't be a girl, you can't be a sissy, so you can't just cry. And then in some cases they're actually punished for crying. You're told you can't just cry, so they're punished. And the third thing that happens mostly, they're ignored. So you cry and you're ignored. So it will be logical to keep crying if you are not getting what you wanted, because crying is it's a survival tactic, you know, for kids. When they're born, they can't talk, so they cry, they get food, they are changed, they get attention. But at some point, if crying doesn't get you what you want, then what will be the point, right? What will be the point of crying if it doesn't get you what you want? So at some point, it makes sense that you just stop. It's not logical to keep doing something that doesn't work. And as far as survival is concerned, it's very important to do what works. So boys grow up to be men and they can't keep on crying. They can't express themselves the way they used to, because they never used to get what they wanted. They stopped getting what they wanted when they expressed it. So still men can cry. And I'm talking about why can't men cry, why are men not vulnerable. I'm not talking about all men. Some men actually are can express their vulnerability around other people, but there are not so many men who are able to do that. Most men are not willing to express themselves that way. And that can be explained. You can even look at the suicide rates. The ratio in men is a bit higher than that in women. and it can be traced back to lack of expression, failure to express yourself, failure to show vulnerability. So the problem comes from childhood. It has to be addressed that way. But just like many problems, when we look at adult problems, we tend to just look at them on the surface and then we ignore the childhood. So people will be brought up the same way they have always been brought up, and then we keep having same problems. But when we look at these problems, we don't look at the depth of it, we just look at the surface. So for me, I believe the crying, the vulnerability thing, the ability to express your emotions to those around you, it all goes back to childhood. And I believe that if parents want to encourage to raise boys who can express themselves well, who are vulnerable, it has to be taught at an early age. It can't just be something that we talk about when people are grown. Then we say we need to talk about your mental health, you need to talk about your issues, what scares you, your fears. I believe those are things that we have to look at their parenting style, so that, because when a boy realizes crying doesn't get him what he wants, then it's logical for him to just stop doing it, because you have to be practical with survival. You can't just keep doing something that doesn't work. So once you realize crying doesn't help, you stop. When you realize, when you express what you need, what you want, you are ignored, then why keep doing it? So, but as an adult, it's your responsibility. You have to deal with those things. So you carry problems. So you could say you are paying for sins that are not really your fault, because you did not decide this. At some point, girls, boys are just the same, they are raised the same, and then at some point there's a shift. So that's why even right now, if you have a girlfriend, it's possible for them to easily express their feelings to you, as compared to them expressing those feelings, as compared to you expressing your feelings to them. So it's more of so there's that shift that happens during upbringing that I believe has to change. It has to be changed, so that even boys, as they grow into men, they can easily express themselves. They can easily talk about their feelings. They can easily talk about their fears. And I believe even if they wanted to talk about them, but even if they were able to talk about them, there is also a challenge of, will they be listened to? Will they get the help that they needed? Will they get the response they're expecting? So if by expressing yourself you won't get the attention you need, it may be difficult for you to keep doing it. So I think that's also a challenge that is hard to address. And as we raise kids ourselves, I think we have to look at that factor, that we can ensure that we raise strong men, but also who can be able to express their fears, who can be able to talk about their fears. So for adults, it's hard. For adult men, it's very hard for them to express themselves around their friends, around their family, around their partners, or even colleagues. So I think they're left with the other option, which will be to talk to a professional, like a therapist, like a psychologist. So I believe, okay, that's also that's an option. If you can't talk to anyone, I think talking to a professional, if you have issues that you feel like these are deep issues that I can't deal with myself, I think that can help. That can really help you, so that you don't have to keep fighting the same demons every day, and saying you have to be strong. Because I believe true strength is to be able to face those fears, and whatever method you choose to face those fears, or to face those issues, I think that's, whatever method you choose, I think that's okay. It doesn't matter what method you choose to face those things. But the most important thing is to note is these issues don't just pop up at adulthood. They have been there since childhood. At some point, someone was taught you can't be saying, you can't talk about these things, you can't cry, you can't be vulnerable, and then you just grow up with that mentality. So I think as an adult, since you can't just go back to childhood and change your life, If that was possible, it would be easier that way, but we have to deal with these things as adults, and I think the best way to do that is to find help. If you have friends you can talk to, whether they are male friends, female friends, then you can just talk to them and express yourself. It makes things easier.